Greetings ladies and gents, my name is Hyozo the Bearded Balkan Blabbermouth and I am discussing, and today I want to talk about something that has been growing in my mind as a worry for all the future of gaming. Not just the woke stuff, not just all the bad decisions that major studios are doing, but the things that are a bit left unsaid, but there's still mistakes that might potentially bury a lot more studios. And one of the things that we are going to discuss today is Bungie's Marathon, the upcoming multiplayer only game that might just be a very, very bad decision. Click that like, click that subscribe button and join the DiscussThing Guild with a membership to see premium content and awesome perks that are just waiting for you. So, Marathon from Bungie Studios is the upcoming multiplayer only game that is going to release in later 2025, and it is a game that has no campaign, it is only online, and it is supposedly not going to be free to play as we have used to seeing such games be free to play. Does that remind you of something? From Smash JT from 3 days ago, is Marathon the next Concord? Yet another Sony owned studio bets big on a paid multiplayer only shooter in a free to play world, but will it work this time? I don't think it will, but let's keep reading. When Bungie revealed the first full gameplay for Marathon, its upcoming sci-fi extraction shooter, many gamers had one huge burning question: is it free to play? The answer is now a definite nope, and we see here a screenshot from Marathon's X account. Marathon will be a premium title. Marathon will not be a full price title. We'll announce details in the summer. So they haven't announced a definite price yet, which does mean, in my opinion, that this tweet might just be a testing of the waters to see how people will react to some pricing on the game. Smash continues. According to official statements from Bungie, Marathon will be a premium title, meaning players will have to pay to play, but it is only multiplayer, which is very, very concerning. It won't be priced at full $70 AAA standard. Most likely the price point would be closer to $30 or $40, even less in my opinion, depending on how they go around it. Similar to Concord, that was $40. If you remember, Concord was a massive failure that ultimately failed to just entice enough people to buy it and play it, mainly because of the gameplay, mainly because of how it looked, how it played, and mainly because you had to pay to play this game, which was basically half a game if you ask some people. Have we learned nothing, Sony? Bungie also confirmed that Marathon is set to launch on September 23rd to 2025. The optics thus far aren't great. And he continues with something that is very, very relevant. I genuinely feel like these types of games never stand a real chance, at least not long term, because they're missing what many of us actually want: a solid single player campaign. While I can't speak for everyone, there's something to be said for a game to chill and play through a campaign and get familiar with the world before diving into the multiplayer side of things, especially when paying an upfront costs. And yes, I seem to be also noticing something very, very troubling with upcoming games and games from some time ago now. We used to have games like Diablo, like Warcraft, like StarCraft, like a lot of other games, like Half-Life even, like old Call of Duty and Battlefield, Age of Empires, Age of Mythology, all the old games that you can think of. Almost all of them had a multiplayer and a single player, especially some of the ones that turned into exclusively multiplayer branches that had additional extension and expansion, like Dota, for instance, the original one, like the Battle.net Diablo servers that were absolutely massive. They all had the full content of a single player game, and they incorporated the multiplayer aspect amazingly, whether it was to do the campaign again but with varying difficulties depending on how many players you have, or to just have PvP styles, or to just PvE styles, to have versus or a co-op mode. They all had it, and a lot of games still do that, to be honest, but there's also a growing trend of just making half games, either only single player or only multiplayer. And some people might say, okay, yeah, we're separating them, we can focus on one aspect alone with a multiplayer and single player game. We don't have to think about those things as a whole. But I would say, okay, so you could do before both of them, and you did provide us with a lot of great games, oh gaming industry. Why can't you do it now? It's not about cutting costs, it's not about trying to save some money or provide a better experience, because we have seen what has been going on. We have seen the amount of slew, the bad games, the lazy ass made games, the mid titles that have been going out with full prices. So it's not that. You don't get that as an excuse. What I think has happened is that probably they're trying to push less for the same price and to just bamboozle players. And I'm not saying there aren't games that still do multiplayer and single player, that do campaigns, or at least if they're a multiplayer game, they're free to play, like Marvel Rivals, for instance. However, the growing trend from what I see is that separation is going further and further, especially when you add the perpetually online games, like what we have seen with Ubisoft's lawsuit for the game The Crew, that was needed to be perpetually online. These things are essentially anti-consumer, anti-player, anti-gamer, and they have been going on for far too long, and they need to stop. He continues exactly with that, with games like Marvel Rivals launching as free to play and Call of Duty dominating the multiplayer space already. Asking people to pay upfront for a multiplayer only title is always going to be a tough sell, especially without a campaign. Exactly. At least if you want it to be a multiplayer game, add a PvE mode, add a campaign mode. Even Overwatch did this, and their initial campaign modes were actually pretty good and were entertaining to do, especially on different modes. So it is possible, and I know that probably they might announce, yeah, we'll be working on eventually having campaign mode. However, that won't be enough, in my opinion, to convince people to initially buy your game, because the trust that would take for a game to announce something that will come later, but you still need to pay the full price for the game before that thing comes out, is gone. It is absolutely gone. We live in a time that we don't have that trust. We don't have any sort of goodwill towards most of the companies, if not 90% of the companies, if I dare to say. And that goodwill needs to be returned and to be brought back and to be re-earned from the companies towards us. So we are currently very burned out as a gaming community, and we turn towards our backlog or indie games, especially if you ask someone like me. I play almost entirely old games and indie games. Why? Because old games were made for gamers, and indie games are currently made by passionate people and passionate gamers, again, for gamers. And that's what people like me want. We don't want corporate slop. We want something made to entertain us, and with the thought of entertaining us. In a saturated multiplayer market filled with polished competitive free-to-play options like Apex Legends, Warzone and Fortnite, amongst too many others to even bother naming, asking players to drop even $30-40 on a multiplayer only experience with no single player campaign is a massive gamble, and that gamble is not going to win. Let me tell you that. This is my fear. I actually hope that I am wrong, but I think that that's what's going to happen if Bungie continues on this path. And gamers haven't forgotten the Concord disaster. Hell, that was still within the past few months, yes, and gamers will continue to remember that. And Smash ends the article with this: if the pricing model isn't handled perfectly, and if the gameplay fails to immediately hook players, Marathon could face the same fate as Concord or even Anthem. Bungie says more detail will arrive this summer, but until then I can't help but feel like Marathon is setting itself up to be the next big live service flop. To be honest, Bungie does have a lot more integrity than many of the studios that we can name now. However, it's still not above making bad choices. As a whole, the gaming industry continues to suffer for the past several years from a massive withdrawal from players. People are more critical, people are more awake, people are more vigilant. Nobody wants to add and to give money mindlessly to the next product. We just don't do that anymore. And even the normies, the people who are outside of all of this internet drama, all of this gaming and Gamergate and all of this, and the YouTube commentators, all of this stuff, the absolute normies, the casual gamers that just want to play the next game from one of their favorite franchises, are now starting to withdraw. We see that with Assassin's Creed Shadows, because by all means, ladies and gents, Assassin's Creed Shadows did not do good. It flopped so spectacularly that when anything official arrives sometime in the future, as in numbers, we will see that me and people like J Viper, like Smash JT, like Hypnotic were right about the numbers, about the cost, about how much money it lost. We already see it. You have seen it with the sale of Ubisoft and the subsidiary that basically, in my opinion, serves as the medium for that sale, and you see all the flops that have led up to it. So no, even the normies don't want to give their money to another company, to another slop. Even they are starting to look more, to watch more videos, to make their own opinions, and the time of the mindless consumer zombie is slowly but surely approaching. And with that, gaming companies need to adjust a lot, and in my opinion, it's not going to be that big of adjustment. They used at least out front to be gamer oriented. They wanted to give us what we desire. They used to work in our interest and to make games in our interest. They were led by passionate people in the gaming community, and the games that came out were for the rest of the gaming community, and now they are for the modern audience. And I want to repeat something that I said months ago about the modern audience. We, the gamers, the gaming community, the people who are constantly shunned, insulted, labeled as racist, bigots, haters, and whatever, we are the modern audience, because we are the only audience that still exists and still buys games and still plays games. What they think the modern audience is of all the activists and all the SJWs, all the woke people, all the DEI hires and all the DEI mindless people, they are not an audience. They are internet commentators, they're internet trolls, and they're perpetually online spectators that will never spend money on a game. They would just be there to either receive a free copy and make a pseudo cognitive journalistic piece about it, or they will just say buy this, don't buy that, oh you're a hater or not. They will never spend their own money. They were never gamers, and they were never passionate about gaming. They were passionate about activism, and that's not an audience. We are the audience. We are the people that sweat and scream and get angry and get happy and give our opinions and fight for the good of the gaming industry and for entertainment industry as well, not only the gaming industry itself. We are the modern audience, ladies and gents. We are the people who are still here in 2025. We were here 20 years ago, we were here 10 years ago, some of us were here 30 years ago, and we're still here, and we will continue to be here because we are gamers, because we are fans, and because we want gaming to be great again. And that's what the fight is, ladies and gents, and the fight is good. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it so far, please leave a like, leave a subscribe, comment down what you think, follow all of my social links in the description below, and click the join button if you want to help me support myself throughout this YouTube adventure and to help support homeless animals and animals in shelters. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Hills, this was DiscussThing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers and stay fresh.